As the sole heir to one of the city's wealthiest families, I spent my days sleeping under a bridge when I was tired and fighting stray dogs for scraps when I was hungry. The day I turned 20, my wealthy parents discovered I was their long-lost biological son and came to take me home, but I refused without a second thought. That's because I had bonded with a super rebate system, where spending money made me even more money. As for the Harrison family title that the imposter cherished so much, I couldn't care less. So, when my sister, Clara Harrison, showed up to claim me, I didn't give her the ecstatic reaction she expected. Instead, I calmly agreed to go with her for a paternity test. Outside the lab, my father, George Harrison, was already waiting. When he saw me, a flash of shock crossed his eyes because I looked so much like his wife. "I'm George Harrison, your father." "Hello." My two-word reply cut him off completely. "Let's use a hair sample for the DNA test. I don't want my blood drawn." My father didn't care. Either way was fine with him. The doctor was skilled, quickly plucking a few strands of hair and preparing the sample before speaking. "The results will be ready in half an hour at the earliest. Please wait." "All right, I've cooperated with the paternity test, so if there's nothing else, I'm leaving." All I wanted was to go home and collapse into my bed for a deep sleep. George watched my retreating back, about to say something, but Clara stopped him. "Dad, Ethan is still distant with us. Just treat it as him being childish for now, and we'll talk after the paternity test comes back." In Clara's mind, once the test confirmed I was a Harrison, it was only a matter of time before I returned to the family. After all, the Harrisons could offer me resources I could never earn in a lifetime. "Don't tell your mother or your brother about this yet. Let's wait for the results," George instructed. His wife doted on Dylan as if he were a precious treasure. If she found out Dylan wasn't their biological son, there was no telling how she would react. And then there was Dylan, the boy they had raised for 21 years. Their bond was deep, not something that could be easily severed. "I just hope that after Ethan comes home, the two brothers can get along peacefully," George mused, optimistically. He never considered whether I was willing to return, or if Dylan was willing to coexist peacefully with me. Meanwhile, after leaving the hospital, I took a cab straight back to my rented apartment. I called my landlord to let her know I wouldn't be renewing the lease next month. Since I had work the next day, I washed up and went to bed early, sleeping soundly through the night. At 6 a.m., I was jolted awake by the system's task notification. "Host, please spend $4 million before midnight tonight. Task rewards to be unlocked." After accepting the task, I had just arrived at the office when the general manager appeared at my department's entrance. "Ethan, come to my office." Though I was full of questions, I couldn't ignore a summons from the GM. Arriving at his office, I raised my hand and knocked. "Come in." I opened the door to find Clara Harrison sitting on the sofa. The general manager was nowhere in sight. It didn't take a genius to figure out she had used the GM's name to get me here. She tossed a file folder at me, and I knew it contained the DNA paternity test results between me and George. I picked up the folder, opened it, and quickly found the line, "Probability of paternity, 99.9%. I see the results, but as I've said, I don't want to return to the Harrison family. Your appearance in my life is not something to celebrate." Clara didn't know how to describe her feelings. Of course, she wanted me to return to the family for a happy reunion, but I clearly didn't share that sentiment. I didn't even want to acknowledge them. "You are my brother. That's an undeniable fact. The Harrison bloodline cannot be left to wander outside. I'll assume you just haven't adjusted to your new identity yet. I hope you can sort out your feelings within a week and come home with me obediently." Although Clara pitted the suffering I had endured over the years, she was also the heiress to the Harrison Corporation, accustomed to being in a position of power. The first time someone defied her, it was novel. The second time, it was just annoying. Clara didn't give me a chance to refuse, turning and leaving the office as soon as she finished speaking. After work, I headed straight for the Grandview Mall across the street from my office. With money in my pocket, I walked with a newfound confidence. Yesterday I'd bought clothes from Ralph Lauren and a Rolex watch, so today I decided to start my shopping spree at the third store. Just as I finished my shopping, my phone rang. Seeing it was an unknown number, I instinctively rejected the call. At that exact moment, the system notified me that the spending task was complete. Task reward triggered. A 3x rebate of $12 million has been deposited into the host's bank account, along with ownership of the Apex Tower. The relevant property deeds have been placed in the system inventory. Please check. The Apex Tower? Wasn't that my office building? I couldn't wait to see the deeds, so I quickly hailed a cab and told the driver to take me to Starlight Towers. Just as I got in, my phone rang again. It was the same number I had just rejected. After a moment's hesitation, I answered. "Hello, it's me, Clara." Hearing her voice, I frowned instinctively. "What do you want?" "Dylan is awake. He somehow found out he's not the real Harrison heir and he's a complete mess. Are you free right now? Could you come to Mount Sinai Hospital? I'm busy. I refused flatly. I wasn't raised by the Harrisons, so why should I be responsible for Dylan's emotional state? I hung up the phone and immediately blocked Clara's number. At Mount Sinai Hospital, outside Dylan's room, Clara listened to the call cannot be completed message and quickly realized I had blocked her. Well, when is he getting here? George was also outside the room watching her make the call. Clara's lips moved, but she ultimately told the truth. He said he's not coming, and he just blocked my number. George fell silent, not having expected this outcome. Why won't he come? His own sister called to ask him personally, what more does he want? My mother, Eleanor, felt little affection for the biological son she'd never met, and hearing that her daughter had been rejected, her impression of me soured completely. Clara said nothing more. The situation was what it was. She couldn't exactly kidnap me and drag me over. Meanwhile, I returned to Starlight Towers by cab, and the delivery service brought over my purchases for the day. After they left, I finally had a moment to open my system inventory and look at the property deeds. I put them back into the inventory and started organizing everything I had bought over the past 2 days. At 6 a.m. the next morning, I was once again awakened by the system's task notification. When I saw today's spending mission, my vision went dark for a second. Task: host must spend $6 million before midnight tonight. The spending must be completed at any auto mall in New York City. Task reward: unlock the South Queens Auto Plaza. Isn't that place way out in the suburbs? It looked like I'd have to take the day off to complete this task. When I got to the office and sat down, I received the quarterly financial report for the Apex Tower from the property manager, Mr. Evans, along with a list of the building's tenants. There were notes about certain special tenants who received rent discounts or were allowed to pay late. But those were deals made with the previous owner. They wouldn't fly with me. I quickly sent a message to Mr. Evans addressing the issue. When collecting the third quarter rent this month, ensure everyone pays the full amount on time as stipulated in their contracts. For any who refuse to cooperate, I reserve the right to unilaterally terminate their lease and find new tenants. Previously, Mr. Evans had to grovel to collect rent from those well-connected tenants. But things were different now. The entire Apex Tower belonged to me, and as the property manager, he was essentially my representative. Mr. Evans quickly drafted a message and sent it out to all the tenants of the Apex Tower. As the end of the workday approached, I took my written leave request and went into my supervisor's office. Ethan, you've been requesting a lot of time off lately. If you keep taking leave, it's going to be hard for me to explain to upper management. My supervisor looked at my request, troubled. I just approved a full day for you the day before yesterday, and now you're asking for another half day. What's so urgent that you need to take off so often? Sir, I really do have something important to take care of. If you can't approve it, then I'll have to resign. Are you serious? My supervisor realized I wasn't joking and finally relented. All right, fine, I'll approve it this time, but you should seriously reconsider resigning. Our company's salary and benefits are quite competitive in this industry. If you quit, you might not find a better job. He signed my leave slip, offering advice as he did. After all, a talented and productive intern like me was a rare find. Thank you, sir. I'll think about it carefully. After leaving the Apex Tower, I took a cab to the South Queens Auto Plaza. The salespeople at the auto mall were experts at sizing people up. I arrived alone, so they likely assumed I was buying a car for myself. I wasn't wearing any major brands aside from the watch on my wrist, and they couldn't be sure if it was real. It was clearly my first time here, but I didn't look timid, suggesting I had a purpose. The conclusion: a potential customer, but not a big one. Still, even a small sale was a sale, so a salesperson quickly approached. Hello, I'm Holly from the Volkswagen dealership. What can I help you with today? Volkswagen doesn't really have any particularly expensive cars, do they? I see. Well, would you mind telling me your budget? I can recommend a different brand for you. Holly hadn't expected to be shot down so quickly, but she recovered fast. If she couldn't make the sale, she could at least refer the customer to a friend at another dealership. Around 6 million. Okay, 6 million? Did you say your budget is $6 million? Holly had assumed my budget was $200,000 at most, and that I just didn't like Volkswagen. I nodded, giving her an affirmative answer. Please wait a moment, I'll get someone to assist you right away. Since salespeople couldn't sell across brands, Holly had to refer me. She was already typing in their group chat, $6 million customer up for grabs. First come, first served. Responses quickly appeared in the group chat, though not everyone believed her. Holly wasn't surprised. With so many salespeople at the Auto Plaza, there were always a few skeptics. Before long, a young-looking salesperson emerged from the Rolls-Royce dealership. Holly looked at the newcomer and knew she'd been pushed out by the others. They didn't believe her customer was serious, but they didn't want to miss the chance entirely, so they sent out an intern. It wasn't the first time this had happened. Interns rarely had the authority to close a deal. Mr. Ethan, this is Sarah from Rolls-Royce. With your budget, there are quite a few excellent models you can choose from. I didn't really care about the brand of the car. As long as it helped me spend $6 million, nothing else mattered. All right, let's take a look. This way, please. Sarah didn't have much confidence in this sale. She hadn't exactly been forced out. A more significant reason was that Holly was usually kind to her, and she didn't want to see her left in an awkward position. Do you have any particular models in mind? Our brand tends to lean towards business-style vehicles, usually purchased by older, successful professionals. It's rare to see a customer as young as you. Why don't you recommend something? My budget is $6 million, and I honestly don't know much about luxury cars. Of course, are you interested in an SUV? The Cullinan is in a suitable price range. It might be slightly over, but for you, that should be a minor issue. Do you have anything smaller? I had to admit, the Cullinan was a car many guys would love, but since I was single, I had no need for something so large. Smaller? Then perhaps you'd like the Wraith? It's a two-seater though, and the price is a bit lower. Sarah led me over to a display model of the Wraith. Its black body and sleek, flowing lines immediately caught my eye. Having dealt with many customers, Sarah had some experience reading micro-expressions, and she knew she'd made the right recommendation with the Wraith. What's the final price on this? If I sign the contract, how long until I can get the car? Do you handle the registration and insurance? Getting a license plate in New York City wasn't easy. If the dealership could handle all the paperwork, it would save me a lot of trouble. The final price depends on the options you choose, but we can certainly handle all the paperwork for you. As for the car, they are built to order, so the minimum wait time is about 2 weeks. Unfortunately, there's no way around that. Hearing this, I nodded. That's fine. Order one for me. I'll pay in full. My decisiveness caught Sarah off guard for a moment, but she quickly composed herself. Of course, I'll go prepare the contract. Please have a seat and rest here. Sarah led me to the customer lounge, poured me a glass of water, and then hurried off to get the paperwork. Hello there. It was the dealership's top salesperson, a woman named Sonia. The young lady who was helping you, Sarah, had to step away for a moment. She asked me to take over. I took a sip of my water. Oh, you're taking over for her? If this deal goes through, who gets the commission? It was such a clumsy attempt to steal a sale. I saw right through it. Well, since Sarah is unable to assist you due to personal reasons, she will naturally have to bear the consequences of that. She didn't say it outright, but everyone present knew what she meant. That's all right. I'm not in a hurry. I can wait. These salespeople were like vultures, swooping in at the first sign of a big score. I didn't care how they usually operated, but I had no intention of giving my business to someone like her. Of course, it's an honor for Sarah that you're willing to wait, but as a representative of this dealership, I can't bear to see a customer kept waiting. I have the contract all ready for you. Would you like to see? I didn't take it, just sat there quietly, staring at Sonia. My gaze made her scalp tingle, but for the sake of the commission, she decided to press on. Look, as a senior employee, I can offer you a better discount than Sarah can. When handing over the contract didn't work, she changed tactics. She couldn't believe anyone would turn down a discount. On a multi-million-dollar purchase, even a 0.1% discount would be a significant amount of money. Someone else might have agreed, but she had the misfortune of dealing with me, a person who only wanted to spend money, not save it. Thanks, but I don't need one. What a joke. I'd finally found a car with a suitable price tag. A discount would only make my spending task harder. After a long wait, Sarah finally returned, running with the contract in hand, her forehead beaded with sweat. Mr. Ethan, I'm so sorry. The manager just pulled me aside to discuss some work matters. I apologize for the wait. Sarah looked embarrassed. She couldn't exactly refuse a summons from her boss. But when she saw Sonia standing next to me, her expression soured. Sonia, what are you doing here? You two go ahead and talk. I won't interrupt. Seeing that I was immune to both her pressure and her offers, Sonia had no choice but to retreat dejectedly. Mr. Ethan, the contract is in triplicate. One for you, one for the dealership, and one for a third-party law firm. Please review it and let me know if you have any questions. I picked up one of the copies and began to read. As soon as I touched the paper, the voice of the Spend Freely system echoed in my mind. Spend Freely can scan the contract for the host. Proceed. Scan it. This was my first time dealing with a car purchase agreement, and I was worried about being taken advantage of. I was very pleased to discover the system had this hidden feature. Scan complete. The contract is legal, compliant, and contains no hidden clauses. Hearing the system's confirmation, I smiled slightly. At least their contract was legitimate, saving me the trouble of arguing with them. The contract looks fine. I can sign it. With that, I signed my name on the final page. After signing, Sarah took me to the cashier to pay. The final price is $5.5 million. That left me $500,000 short of my $6 million goal for the day. I'd also like to order another car, something around $500,000. Do you have any recommendations? Even if I had to make up a small difference myself, I had to hit the spending target. You mean, you want to order another car? Sarah was stunned that after just spending $5.5 million, I was ready to buy another one. Even though the price was 10 times lower, it was still a huge sale for them. Yes, something for daily driving. In that case, I'd recommend Porsche. They have several models with a great driving feel. There's one in particular, the Panamera, in an Aurora silver color. It's under $1 million and very popular with guys. Take me to see it. My eyes lit up at the suggestion. Sarah had already posted in the sales group chat about me ordering the Wraith from Rolls-Royce. So, when I walked into the Porsche dealership this time, I received an unprecedentedly warm welcome. Good afternoon, sir. I'm Lilith, the top salesperson here. How may I help you? Her voice was noticeably sweeter when addressing a high-value client. The moment I entered the dealership, my eyes were drawn to the unique Aurora silver car among the display models. That car has a very distinctive color. What is it? You mean the Aurora Silver? That model is one of our best sellers. Would you like to take it for a test drive? I can arrange that for you right now. Hearing my question, Lilith knew the sale was practically guaranteed. No need. Do you have this model in stock? Or is it like the other place where I have to order it? I was living at Starlight Towers now, and having a car for my daily commute would be convenient. You're in luck. We just received one today and haven't even announced it yet. If you want it, I can ask my manager to reserve it for you right now. After all, between a guaranteed sale and a potential one, the manager would know which to choose. The Panamera was a popular model, but there was no guarantee it would sell quickly. Moving inventory was always the priority. That sounds good. Go ahead and ask. I had only intended to browse, but seeing the car in person, I really liked it. Regardless of who they had originally intended the car for, it was mine now. While I waited, I noticed several people looking my way. Some were curious about who I was, while others were likely wondering if they could charm their way into my wallet. Soon, Lilith came jogging back with several contracts in her hand. Mr. Ethan, the manager has approved the sale to you. Here is the contract I just prepared. Please take a look. Lilith efficiently handed one of the copies to me. I took the contract and once again had Spend Freely scan it for me. Do you handle the registration and insurance? You can rest assured, sir. We take care of everything. Only then did I confidently sign my name and add my thumbprint to the contract. After Lilith checked all 3 copies to ensure everything was in order, she led me to the cashier. I handed the cashier the black card provided by the system, and the payment went through quickly. However, since the total exceeded $6 million, the system deducted an additional $330,000 from my bank account to cover the full $880,000 for the Porsche. Task: spend $6 million before midnight, completed. A 4x rebate has been triggered. $24 million have been deposited into the host's bank account. Ownership of the South Queens Auto Plaza real estate has been granted. Relevant deeds are in the system inventory. Please check. Hearing the task completion notification, my jaw dropped. The system was getting more and more generous. Thanks to the rebates, my bank account balance was approaching $100 million. The necessary paperwork will take about an hour. Would you prefer to wait here, or should we deliver the car to you? It's fine, I'll wait here. You can go handle the paperwork. Of course, I'll be as quick as I can. Lilith took the contracts and quickly disappeared from the showroom. I returned to my seat and pulled out my phone to pass the time. I hadn't been on it for long when a call came in. It was an unknown number, so I immediately declined it. But a second later, the same number called again, leaving me no choice but to answer. Hello, Ethan, where are you? Clara? Her again? She was like a persistent ghost. Where I am is none of your business. Why are you calling me? I truly didn't understand. If Dylan was already upset about the whole Heir situation, why were they so insistent on me returning to the family? Dylan fainted because of you. Don't you feel the least bit guilty? He's lying in a hospital bed, and you're out gallivanting? I was completely bewildered. Are you insane? What does Dylan fainting have to do with me? I haven't even been near him. How can you possibly blame that on me? Why don't you reflect on why you all couldn't keep this a secret, leading to him fainting from the shock? Or maybe you didn't feed him and he fainted from malnutrition? There are so many possible explanations, yet you insist on pinning it on me. Clara, do you take me for an idiot? After my tirade, Clara was uncharacteristically silent. She knew I was telling the truth. I had never once appeared before Dylan. Why did she automatically assume his fainting was my fault? Clara felt that something wasn't right. Alright, if that's all you called to say, then don't bother. I'm hanging up. I ended the call without hesitation and blocked her number again. It didn't matter how many new numbers Clara could find. I would block every single one. Just as I hung up, someone nearby started clapping. I instinctively looked toward the sound and saw a stylishly dressed young woman smiling in my direction. I was certain I had never seen her before. Hi, my name is Summer. What's yours? Seeing me look at her, the woman walked over and sat down across from me. Ethan. Ethan? That's a nice name. I just overheard your steady output. It was quite impressive. I wanted to meet you. I was speechless. What a strange thing to focus on. Years of combat experience. Nothing worth mentioning. I grew up on my own. If I didn't have a few skills, I wouldn't have survived this long. So, are you here to buy a car? Or, what do you think? Summer seemed to realize her question was redundant and gave an awkward laugh. Heh, that was a dumb question. Anyway, have you picked out a car yet? If not, I can help you decide. I know a lot about cars. No need, I've already bought one. I'm just waiting for the paperwork. You already bought one? What did you get? I'm looking for a new car too, but I haven't decided yet. Maybe your choice can give me some ideas. The Aurora Silver. You want to buy it? I said with a straight face, though the slight curve of my lips might have given me away. I think I'll pass on the Aurora Silver. It's not really a girl's car. When will your paperwork be done? We're having a race tonight on the mountain roads. Are you interested in checking it out? No thanks. I'm not really into racing. Even if I had zero sense of self-preservation, I wouldn't go to a street race with a girl I just met, whose name I couldn't even be sure was real. Oh, come on. It doesn't matter if you can't race. You can just sit in the passenger seat and cheer me on. Do you think a normal person would go to a street race with a girl he just met? I was being very blunt. Summer was momentarily at a loss for words. In her entire life, she had never been rejected so directly by a guy, which suddenly made me even more interesting to her. Fine, I understand your hesitation, but since fate brought us together, if we're not going to the race, can I at least get your number? Summer pulled out her phone, displayed her contact QR code, and held it out to me. Not wanting to argue, I took out my phone and added her. Done. Seeing the iMessage request from a contact named The One True Love, Summer happily accepted. I'm going to look at cars now. See you next time. I hope you'll agree to come to a race with me then. In her circle, racing was a common pastime, organized every few days for the thrill of it. I gave a tight-lipped smile. We were from completely different worlds. The chances of us meeting again were practically zero. After waiting in the lounge for about 40 minutes, Lilith returned, jogging in her high heels. Mr. Ethan, your license plates and all the purchase documents are ready. If you have your driver's license, you can drive it off the lot right now. Here are the keys and the relevant receipts and documents for you to keep. After checking that everything was in order, I closed the folder. Everything looks good. Thanks for taking care of this for me. I'll be going now. Having a car would make my commute much more convenient. But just as I was about to drive away, my phone rang. Seeing the unknown number, I instinctively assumed it was Clara calling me from someone else's phone. I let it ring until it went to voicemail. Lilith happened to glance at the caller ID and felt the number looked familiar, but as a salesperson, she knew better than to comment. When the phone rang a second time, I finally answered. Hello, is this Mr. Ethan? Relieved that it wasn't Clara, I relaxed a bit. This is he. Who's calling? Mr. Ethan, hello? My name is Mr. Russo, and I'm the manager of the South Queens Auto Plaza. I just received word that you've purchased the entire property, including the land. I was calling about the lease agreement. It was July, time to pay the third quarter rent. Mr. Russo was worried I might have other plans for the property and had called me in a panic as soon as he heard the news. The sale doesn't break the lease. The rental agreement has been transferred to my name, as the previous owner should have informed you. Mr. Russo, you just need to continue paying the rent on time according to the contract. However, I understand the contract expires at the end of this year. If you wish to renew, you'll need to inform me 1 month in advance. If Mr. Russo didn't renew, I'd have to find a new tenant. A month's notice was essential. Finding someone to lease such a large property wouldn't be easy. Barring any unforeseen circumstances, I certainly intend to renew. Thank you for making this so straightforward, Mr. Ethan. Hearing my words, Mr. Russo knew I wasn't an unreasonable landlord. It made sense. Someone who could quietly acquire the entire auto plaza probably wasn't too concerned about his $500 million annual rent. The previous owner should have shown you the lease transfer agreement, which includes my financial information. Just deposit the third quarter rent into my account before the 5th of this month. You can count on it, sir. I'll pay on time. Although he could tell from my voice that I was young, for some reason, Mr. Russo felt no inclination to cross me. If there's nothing else, I'm hanging up. I need to drive. Meanwhile, Summer had also picked out a car, but the dealership didn't have it in stock. She would have to order it and wait 2 weeks for delivery. As she came out after signing her contract, she saw me just ending my call. Ethan, hearing my name, it took me a moment to realize it was the girl I had just met. Miss Summer. Don't call me Miss Summer. It's too formal. You can call me Summer. Or you could even call me Big Sister. A shiver went down my spine. I have things to do, so I'll be going. I grabbed my belongings, walked briskly out of the Porsche dealership, and saw my new car being unloaded by the staff. I hadn't driven since I got my license, but thankfully, I quickly got the hang of it and drove steadily. When I got home and turned on my phone, it was flooded with notifications. Not just from iMessage, but also text messages and several missed calls. Puzzled, I opened one of the texts. Based on the content, I guessed it was from my biological mother, whom I had never properly met. Reading between the lines, I could almost picture the expression on her face as she typed. This woman, who hadn't raised me for a single day, sent me a message dripping with resentment. She wanted me to attend my grandfather's birthday party and, to reassure Dylan, announced to everyone that I was just an adopted son they had kindly taken in, while Dylan was the true Harrison heir. And she had the audacity to expect me to be grateful for it. I had no idea what was going on in their heads. Did they really think I was some pushover they could manipulate at will? I unblocked Clara's number and gave her a call. The call connected quickly, but the person who answered wasn't Clara. It was Dylan. So you're the biological son Mom and Dad just found? Oh, and you must be the sickly weakling who faints all the time? Your voice sounds pretty strong. You're not faking it, are you? I have an allergy to passive-aggressive nonsense. I can't help but push back, and Dylan had just walked right into my line of fire. I was in a car accident. It's normal for me to faint. I know you don't like me. If it bothers you, I'll tell Mom and Dad that I'll move out after I'm discharged from the hospital. Ethan, what did you say to Dylan? Why would he want to move out? As his older brother, you should be tolerant, not so jealous that you're trying to drive him out of the family. Dylan must have heard Clara talking to someone outside and cleverly steered the conversation to him moving out. When Clara came in, she saw Dylan looking hurt and sad, talking about leaving home. And naturally, I, on the other end of the phone, became the villain of the story. I was speechless. Shut up. I called to tell you to inform your mother to stop calling and texting me. It's annoying. Also, I will not be attending any Harrison birthday party, and I want you all to stop contacting me. As for Dylan, he's your brother, not mine. With that, I hung up and blocked her number again. When Clara tried to say something else, she found the line was dead. When she tried calling back, it wouldn't go through. From past experience, she knew I had most likely blocked her again. After Clara hung up, Dylan looked at her timidly, his eyes welling up with tears. Just focus on getting better. Don't worry about anything else. Clara rubbed her temples, her face showing clear signs of exhaustion. Lately, she had been busy with Harrison Corporation business, searching for me, and making time to visit Dylan. She was so tired her eyes were bloodshot. Now, with the obvious rift between Dylan and me, Clara felt mentally and physically drained. Sis, is it because of me that Ethan doesn't want to come home? I know I'm not Mom and Dad's biological son. I'm the one who took his place. I should be the one to give it back. You've lived with us for over 20 years. Even without a blood connection, you are still a young master of the Harrison family, and you are my brother, Clara Harrison's brother. Nothing can change that. Clara was genuinely good to Dylan. Even after learning he wasn't her biological brother, her attitude towards him never changed. The real source of her headache was me, the one who refused to come home. I'll handle the situation with Ethan. You just need to rest and recover. I brought you dinner, eat it while it's hot. I have a meeting to get to, so I have to go. Clara raised the overbed table, placed the insulated container on it, gave Dylan a few instructions, and prepared to leave. Dylan's eyes lit up when he heard she brought him dinner, but a flicker of resentment crossed his face when she mentioned a meeting, though he hid it well. He opened the container, laid out the food, and watched Clara's retreating back. The moment she was gone, he put down his chopsticks without taking a single bite. Meanwhile, the system's notification sounded in my head again. Task issued. Host must spend a minimum of $100 million at tonight's Sterling Family Charity Auction. No upper limit. Task reward. An invitation to the auction has been placed in the system inventory. Please check. My eyes widened when I saw the spending amount. A minimum of $100 million with no upper limit? Spend Freely was planning something big. But where was this Sterling Family Charity Auction? I took the invitation from my system inventory and saw the address and time written in small, gold-foiled letters in the bottom left corner. Address: the Grandview Hotel, 9th floor. Time: July 4th, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. An event like this would require a tuxedo, wouldn't it? And if I needed to get ready, I probably couldn't go to work today. In that moment, I finally made up my mind to quit my job. By the time I was ready, it was already 7:30 p.m. I rushed over and managed to arrive at the Grandview Hotel just before 8 o'clock. This time, not only were the security guards enthusiastic to see me, but even the front desk staff greeted me with broad smiles. When I arrived on the 20th floor, my mindset was completely different. My coworker, Leo, looked at my radiant appearance with surprise. "Wow, what did you take today? You look so energized." Even though our company had good pay and a great atmosphere, everyone was usually a bit drained during work hours. "No medicine, I'm just quitting." Having already achieved financial freedom, the thought of the liberty that awaited me after resigning made my spirits soar. "Quitting? Are you serious?" Leo was shocked by my sudden announcement. We all got along well, and he hadn't heard of me having any issues with anyone. "Of course I'm serious." 10 minutes later, I sent my resignation letter to my supervisor through the company portal and began organizing my work. It wasn't long before he called me into his office for a talk. "I told you to think it over yesterday. Is this your final decision?" "Yes, after careful consideration, I've decided to resign." "Can you tell me why?" "As far as I know, you get along well with your colleagues." My abilities were undeniable, and my supervisor was genuinely reluctant to let such a talent go. "I helped an old man a while back. He had no family, and when he passed away, he left me all his assets. When I received the inheritance, I realized I could live comfortably for the rest of my life just by collecting rent. So, to avoid holding up the company's progress, I decided to resign." "Do I look like I believe you?" Whether my supervisor believed me or not, my mind was made up. As an intern, I didn't need to give a month's notice. I could leave as soon as I handed over my work. He tried to persuade me to stay, but seeing my determination, he knew it was pointless and finally approved my resignation. "Thank you for your understanding, sir. All right, just hand over your work and get out of here before I get any more depressed." He had finally found a promising new talent, only for me to quit shortly after. My supervisor felt like his heart was bleeding and couldn't bear to look at me, the source of his pain. I cheerfully bounced out of his office, kindly closing the door behind me. "So, what happened?" Leo immediately came over to ask as soon as he saw me. "I just need to hand over my work and collect my final paycheck from finance." I've been dying to ask, why the sudden decision to quit? Leo had been holding the question in for a while but finally couldn't resist. "If I told you I got rich overnight and don't feel like working anymore, would you believe me?" I was telling the truth, but unfortunately, no one would believe it. Leo gave me a look that clearly said, "Do I look like an idiot? See? I told you the truth, and you don't believe me." I showed him the Patek Philippe on my wrist, which finally made him take a closer look at my attire. "I can't believe it's real. You've been hiding this whole time." Leo was about to scream. My outfit alone was worth enough to buy a house in a smaller city. It completely stunned him. "I told you I got rich overnight, you just didn't believe me." "I believe you. I believe you. From now on, I'll believe anything you say." Leo's financial situation was much better than mine had been, but even he wouldn't spend that kind of money on luxury goods. "So what are your plans after you quit?" "I'll figure it out later. First, I'm going to take a break." I wasn't sure if the system would give me a spending task every day, so I needed some time to observe. After treating my colleagues to afternoon tea, I said my goodbyes and left the company for good. I drove to the Grandview Hotel, where the auction hall was already filling up with people. I took the invitation from my system inventory and handed it to the staff at the entrance. The staff member's expression changed upon seeing it, breaking into a wide smile as he bowed slightly. "Good evening, Mr. Ethan. Allow me to show you to your seat." The Sterling Family Charity Auction didn't have private boxes. Everyone was seated in the main hall. However, the seats at the front were significantly more spacious and well-appointed than those in the back. The staff member led me all the way to a seat in the front row. It wasn't dead center, but it was certainly a prime location. I could only marvel at the power of the system. Suddenly, a voice interrupted my thoughts. "Ethan?" I was a bit shocked. I hadn't expected to run into Summer again. "Miss Summer, good evening." Summer had arrived with a group of people, and when she called out to me, they all turned to look in my direction. "Summer, you know him?" The speaker was an elegantly dressed woman standing next to Summer. Her style was similar, but she lacked Summer's sweet demeanor. "Yeah, he's the guy I told you about, the one who's really good at telling people off. It's a shame he didn't agree to go racing with me," Summer said with a look of regret. I gave a forced smile, nodded at the group, and took my seat. The others, however, noticed where I was sitting and gave me subtle glances. "This seat. Let's all sit. The auction is about to start." I felt someone sit down next to me and instinctively looked up. It was the woman who seemed to be the leader of Summer's group. I offered her a small smile as a greeting, then turned back, trying to ignore her presence. To distract myself, I picked up the auction catalog from the table and started flipping through it. I had intended to just browse, but I actually found several items that caught my interest. I mentally noted the items and placed the catalog back on the table. At precisely 8 p.m., the host announced the official start of the auction, then stepped off the stage to be replaced by the auctioneer. The first item of the night was a complete jade set, including a ring, a simple pendant, and a peace donut. I wasn't interested in jewelry, so I had no intention of bidding. "Ethan, do you like this jade set? Should I bid on it for you?" Summer had somehow swapped seats with the person on my other side. Seeing that I wasn't bidding, she actually offered to buy it for me. I appreciate the offer, but if I want something, I'll bid on it myself. We had only met twice at most. I didn't think we were at a gift-giving stage in our relationship. After being rejected, Summer sighed with regret and looked for another opportunity to impress. In the end, the seller bought back the set for $1.2 million. I didn't understand it, but I was certainly surprised. However, since this was a charity auction, I suppose there was nothing wrong with what they did. Soon, the staff brought out the second item, a large, uncut, and unpolished piece of raw jadeite. It was about the size of 2 adult male hands and was a brilliant, fiery red, resembling a phoenix rising from the ashes when viewed from a distance. My eyes were immediately drawn to it. I had already marked it as a target when I saw it in the catalog, but the real thing was far more stunning than the picture. The Phoenix Reborn Raw Red Jadeite. Bidding starts at $500,000, with minimum increments of $50,000. Let the bidding begin. $600,000. The moment the auctioneer finished speaking, someone eagerly shouted a bid. The price quickly soared to $2 million, and as the number of bidders dwindled, I decided it was time to join in. $3 million. Seeing me raise the bid by $1 million in one go, another bidder dropped out. "Ethan, what kind of bidding is that?" I didn't have time to respond to Summer. Someone across the room had already bid $3.01 million. $4 million. This time, even the quiet woman next to me, Chloe, raised an eyebrow. My bidding style was completely unconventional. $4.5 million. $8 million. My $8 million bid scared off 2 more people, leaving only 3 of us in the running, including myself. $10 million. $12 million. I bid without the slightest hesitation, giving the impression that I would match any price they dared to name. My opponent hesitated for a long time before finally deciding not to raise the bid again. While the Phoenix Reborn was rare, the best way to handle it would be to have a master carver shape it into a decorative piece. However, that would make it difficult to sell and the price wouldn't increase much. At $12 million, there was no profit to be made. Successfully winning the Phoenix Reborn Red Jadeite visibly improved my mood. Over the next hour, I also won a Yuan Dynasty blue and white vase and several calligraphy scrolls. Summer, sitting next to me, was completely stunned by my extravagant bidding style. "Ethan, the auction isn't even halfway over, and you've already spent nearly $100 million. Are you sure your family is okay with this?" Summer certainly didn't have that kind of disposable income herself. "It's all my own money. Even if I spend it all, no one can say a thing." "So, Ethan, are you also aiming for that plot of land on the west side? A lot of people are here for that." "What land?" I hadn't seen any land listed for auction in the catalog. I was being serious, but I didn't realize how my question made the others around me exchange uncertain glances. "It's a plot on the west side, right next to the resort the Sterling family is planning to develop. Chloe and the others are here for it today. From the way you describe it, it sounds like buying that land is a guaranteed profit." I wasn't interested before, but Summer's words piqued my curiosity. Chloe, who had overheard our entire conversation, looked exasperated. "If you're going to try to outbid me for my target property, could you at least not do it right in front of me? It's more than just a guaranteed profit. It's a gold mine. If I had the money, I'd definitely be bidding on it." Summer was still a college student, and her monthly allowance at most was $20 million. Trying to buy a plot of land with that was a pipe dream. "You may not have the money, but I do." My interest in the land reached its peak. "Mr. Ethan intends to compete with us for that land?" Chloe's sudden, cool question almost made me back down, but I quickly recovered. "It's an auction, isn't it? Highest bidder wins." My response made Chloe pause for a moment, then she chuckled lightly. "You're right, Mr. Ethan. May the highest bidder win." We didn't speak again after that. In the subsequent bidding, I spent lavishly on several more collectibles, forcing Chloe, Summer, and their friends to reassess my financial capabilities. They had initially thought my comment about the land was just talk, but now they had to take me seriously. If I could still produce another $3.8 billion or more in cash, it was entirely possible I could win the land. As time passed, the auction finally neared its end. The much-anticipated West Side plot was brought out as the final grand finale item. And now, for the moment you've all been waiting for, tonight's final item, the West Side plot. This property covers a total of 4,000 square meters. Bidding for the West Side plot starts at $50 million, with minimum increments of 100,000. Let the bidding begin. The moment the auctioneer finished speaking, a flurry of bids erupted from the audience. Chloe's group and I remained silent. The early bidders were just cannon fodder. The real competition would begin when the price reached the expected range. Ethan, how much did you bring? Summer, hearing the rising bids, couldn't help but start talking to me again. I glanced at her. A brain is a wonderful thing to have. Summer, asking that is like revealing Mr. Ethan's hand. Luna, one of her friends, coughed lightly, gently reminding her. Summer finally realized what she had just asked and blushed beet red. I waved my hand, not particularly concerned. Spend Freely had said there was no upper limit today. If I wanted to, I could buy everything at the auction. But I wasn't that greedy. I only bid on things I genuinely liked. The price of the land quickly shot up to 1 billion. Luna, Arya, and Chloe were all gearing up for a fight. I straightened up in my seat. 2 billion. Luna's bid, a full billion higher, eliminated many of the remaining bidders. 2.5 billion. Arya, not to be outdone, added another 500 million. I glanced at Chloe, who still hadn't made a move. 3 billion. 3.5 billion. Ethan, you still have money? You just spent 3.8 billion on those collectibles. Summer's heart pounded when she heard me bid 3.5 billion. At an auction hosted by the Sterling family, failing to pay for a winning bid was not something you could easily talk your way out of. In Summer's world, the wealthiest families in New York City were the Archers, the Linwoods, the Sterlings, and her own family. But the financial power I had displayed tonight was comparable to any of them, as if I were from some hidden, powerful dynasty that had appeared out of nowhere. Of course, I'm not an idiot. I wouldn't be bidding if I didn't have the money. I was well aware of the consequences of not paying. The fact that I was bidding meant I could afford it. 4 billion. Chloe immediately followed my bid. 4.1 billion. Luna's bid was more cautious this time, only 100 million more, which suggested she was nearing her limit. 4.2 billion. A bidder from the back joined in, likely sensing Luna's hesitation and hoping to snag a deal. 4.5 billion. 5 billion. I added, effortlessly. Hearing my bid, Chloe frowned. This had already surpassed their estimated price. 5 billion was just for the land. The subsequent development costs would be the real expense. Chloe wasn't sure if I had the financial backing for the development that would follow. If I didn't, buying the land would be a waste of money. Mr. Ethan, have you considered what you plan to develop on the land after purchasing it? The subsequent development will be a significant expense. I hope you've thought this through. Chloe didn't bid again. 5 billion was their absolute limit. Anything more wasn't worth it. And so, I successfully won the West Side plot for $5 billion. That's right. What am I going to do with this land? I had gotten so caught up in the bidding that I hadn't even thought about what I would use it for. Chloe's reminder brought me back to reality. But the auctioneer's gavel had already fallen. There was no backing out now. As Chloe walked past me, she overheard my quiet mumbling and nearly stumbled. So, they had been sabotaged by Summer, hadn't they? If she hadn't mentioned the West Side plot to me, I probably wouldn't have bid on it, and the land wouldn't have ended up in the hands of a novice like me. I thought about it for a moment and decided not to dwell on it. I crossed that bridge when I came to it. The most important thing now was to pay. I went to the payment area, presented the black card from Spend Freely, and completed the transaction smoothly. Spending task, complete consumption of 8.9 billion at tonight's Sterling Family Charity Auction. Completed. Task reward, a 3x reward of 26.7 billion has been triggered and deposited into the host's account. Spend Freely has specially appointed an exclusive bodyguard team for the host, equipped with one Spend Freely brand 7-seater van. My eyes lit up when I heard today's reward. It was like getting a pillow just as you were falling asleep. I had just been wondering how I was going to safely transport all these items back to Starlight Towers. Now, with bodyguards provided by the system, I felt much more at ease. But where were they? I was about to ask the system when I saw a line of 7 men in suits walking towards me. I didn't need the system to tell me. I knew at a glance that these were my new bodyguards. Sir, the 7 men bowed in unison, their movements perfectly synchronized. I felt so awkward I could have dug a hole and buried myself. No need for all that formality. These are the things I just bought. Just help me carry them to the car and escort me home safely. Adhering to the principle that if I'm not embarrassed, then someone else should be, I had the 7 bodyguards start moving my things. I held on to the land deeds myself, but had them carry the vases, diamonds, and other items. After I left with my 7 bodyguards, Chloe and her friends appeared where I had just been standing. Chloe, what do you make of him? My sudden appearance tonight had caught them all off guard, and the West Side plot had been snatched away just like that. There's nothing to make of it. He won the land fair and square. What are you going to do? Try to take it from him? Based on his performance tonight, he's clearly not someone who's short on $5 billion. Besides, those bodyguards, they didn't seem like ordinary security. Of course not. I was just thinking, maybe we could partner with him. He only bid on the land because Summer mentioned it. He definitely doesn't have a plan for it yet. If we present him with a good enough project proposal, he'll have no reason to refuse. Luna had been considering this possibility ever since I won the bid. Now that's a good idea. If we can bring him in, I have a feeling we won't have to worry about funding for the project anymore. Arya agreed that partnering with me was the right move. I had spent over $8 billion without batting an eye. My financial power was comparable to their old money families that had been in New York for centuries. It was terrifying. I had no idea that just by attending one auction, my newly acquired land was already being targeted. I was currently being carefully escorted back to Starlight Towers by my 7 bodyguards. Fortunately, the penthouse was large enough to accommodate all 7 of them without any issue. Just put everything in my room, then you can all pick your own rooms. Any room except the master bedroom is fine. Yes, sir. The lead bodyguard directed the others. They carried my purchases into my bedroom with their eyes fixed forward, placed them down, and quickly exited. I looked at the items on my desk and moved the collectibles into a display case. The red jadeite phoenix carving I placed on my desk. The other items, like the jewelry, went into the walk-in closet. Task issued. Host must spend $5 million before midnight tonight. Requirement: use your left hand when swiping the card. Reward to be unlocked. When I woke up and saw the requirement for the spending task, I was silent. Wasn't this just like some silly superstition? Like, I stepped out with my left foot first, so I got dumped? I grumbled internally, but I knew that no matter how strange the system's requirements were, I had to follow them. Fortunately, just remembering to use my left hand to swipe a card wasn't too difficult. I leisurely ate breakfast at home, then drove to my old apartment. Even though I had moved into Starlight Towers, I still had a lot of things left at my old place. Now that I had quit my job and had 7 bodyguards to help, I wanted to move everything out as soon as possible to clear the apartment for the landlady to rent out again. You all wait here. I'll call you when I'm done packing. The 7 bodyguards had intended to come up with me, but I stopped them. My old 1-bedroom apartment was too small for 7 extra people, and since it was full of my personal belongings, I felt more comfortable packing it myself. Yes, sir. Their duty was to protect me, and as long as my safety was ensured, they were to follow my orders without question. I went up to my 2nd-floor apartment and quickly packed up my clothes, shoes, and other personal items. Then I called my landlady. The call connected almost immediately. Hello, young man. What can I do for you? The landlady's kind and energetic voice came through the phone, and I felt my mood lift instantly. Hello, ma'am. I called you before about moving out. I'm here today to get the rest of my things. When would be a good time for me to return the key? Oh dear, I'm not in New York City right now. How about this, young man? My daughter is in the city. I'll talk to her and send you her number in a bit. You can just give the key to her. Mrs. Sterling, hearing about the key, finally remembered the nagging feeling she had before she left for her trip. It was about the apartment key. Okay, that works. Please send me her number, and I'll contact her. Hold on, I'll send it right now. I didn't have to wait long before a phone number arrived, along with a voice message from the landlady. Young man, that's my daughter's number. Just give her a call. I sent her an OK emoji and dialed the number. The first call was declined. I was puzzled, but then again, it's normal to ignore calls from unknown numbers. I took a breath and dialed again. Thankfully, the second call went through. Hello, I'm a tenant of Mrs. Sterling. She gave me your number. I'm moving out and need to return the key, but she's out of town and told me to contact you. Just let me know how you'd like me to get the key to you. To avoid being hung up on again, I quickly explained who I was and why I was calling. The person on the other end paused for a moment before speaking. Mr. Ethan, this is Chloe Sterling. What? Who? Chloe Sterling from the auction? Then it hit me. No wonder her voice sounded familiar. Oh, Miss Sterling, what a coincidence. So, would you prefer I mail the key, or should we meet in person? I have something I'd like to discuss with you, Mr. Ethan. Let's meet. Chloe hadn't forgotten that I was the new owner of the West Side plot. All right, when and where? This afternoon at 3 o'clock. The West End Cafe. I had nothing but time on my hands, so I agreed without hesitation. After hanging up with Chloe, I hired a cleaning service to deep clean the apartment, taking photos and videos afterward for my records. At 1:30, I set out. The West End Cafe she mentioned was near the Sterling Corporation headquarters. I arrived at the same time as Chloe. Miss Sterling. Seeing her again, she looked completely different from how she had at the auction. Let's go inside. Chloe gestured for me to enter. I smiled, walked into the cafe, and after a quick scan, chose a four-person table by the window. "Let's sit here." Chloe nodded and sat down gracefully. A waiter who had noticed our arrival came over. "What can I get for you both?" "A black coffee. A cappuccino, thank you," I decided after a quick look at the menu. "Of course. I'll be right back with your drinks." The waiter turned and left to place our order. Once the waiter was gone, I took out the apartment key and handed it to Chloe. "Here's the key. The apartment is empty, and I had it professionally cleaned. If everything is in order, we can sign the lease termination agreement." Chloe was slightly taken aback by my direct, all-business approach. She had expected some small talk before we got down to business, but she appreciated the efficiency. She disliked dragging things out herself. "Everything is fine, Mr. Ethan. You left the place spotless. I brought the contract, please take a look." Chloe took 2 copies of the lease termination agreement from her bag and handed one to me. I wasn't great at reviewing contracts myself, but luckily, I had my system. Only after spend freely, confirmed the contract was fine did I confidently sign my name. Just as I finished, the waiter returned with our coffees. "Here are your drinks. Enjoy." After the waiter left, I spoke up. "Miss Sterling, you said you had something to discuss with me?" "As you know, Mr. Ethan, at yesterday's auction, Luna, Arya, and I were all there for the West Side plot. We didn't expect you to come out of nowhere and win it." I nodded in acknowledgement. "You probably bid on that land on a whim yesterday, so I assume you don't have a development plan for it yet. I have a proposal, and I was wondering if you might be interested." As she spoke, Chloe pulled another document from her bag. It was clear she had come prepared. I opened the project proposal she handed me. It was a plan for a hot spring resort. The land I had bought yesterday was the missing piece of their puzzle. The location of that plot is certainly convenient, but I don't understand how a powerful corporation like Sterling could have missed a piece of land. For a development project like this, shouldn't the land have been secured long ago? If it weren't for you, Mr. Ethan, I'm confident that land would belong to Sterling. Chloe thought to herself that they had put it up for auction to generate publicity for the project, assuming no one with any sense would dare to compete with the Sterling family. Who could have predicted a wild card like me would show up and actually win it? It was infuriating. I could detect a mix of sarcasm, gritted teeth, and helplessness in her tone. I rubbed my nose. I admitted I hadn't been very considerate. Well, we can discuss the partnership. At the next auction, I promise not to bid against you. You're planning on there being a next time, Mr. Ethan?" I didn't respond. I couldn't make that promise. "We're getting off topic, aren't we? We're here to discuss the Westside Hot Spring Resort. Partnership? I'm open to it, but we need to be clear on the terms. I really hadn't thought it through when I bought the land. If Chloe hadn't approached me, I might have sold it off at some point. But partnering with the Sterling family was a good option, as long as it meant I could make money passively. Of course, I had a contract drafted. You can take a look." I put down the project proposal and picked up the new contract she presented. I had to admit, for Chloe to be the president of Sterling at just 25, her competence was undeniable. However, I quickly noticed that this contract gave me very little say in the project. My land accounted for at least 10% of the total project area, yet I was only being offered 5% of the profits. Furthermore, during the development phase, the Sterling Corporation would have full control over my land, and I would have no right to object to any of their plans. Honestly, it felt like Chloe was treating me like a fool. "How about this? I don't know much about project development, so you could probably rip me off without me even noticing. However, I am very interested in collecting rent. I won't participate in your project directly. Instead, I can hire a team to build the resort according to your plans, and you can just pay me rent every quarter. I'm sure a corporation like Sterling can afford that, right?" Contributing the land as equity sounded nice, but until the resort became profitable, I would essentially be giving it to Sterling for free with no income. Renting was different. From the moment the lease was signed, Sterling would have to pay me. The amount didn't matter as much as the steady, reliable income. Chloe hadn't expected such a proposal from me. It completely threw her off. No one had ever suggested something like this before, mainly because people who chose to partner usually lacked the capital for development themselves. "That's a novel suggestion, Mr. Ethan, but I can't make this decision alone. I'll need to discuss it with the board and get back to you. Take your time. I'm not in a hurry." I wasn't desperate for the money. When the project started had no real impact on me. But for the Sterling Corporation, time was money. Chloe finished her coffee and said her goodbyes. As the president of a major corporation, her time was measured in seconds. The fact that she had spent this much time having coffee with me was remarkable. She didn't forget to pay the bill before she left. I finished my cappuccino and slowly made my way out of the cafe. While walking around earlier, I had noticed a bespoke tailor shop. The owner was a dapper middle-aged man who, if he hadn't told me he was over 50, I would have guessed was in his 30s. I've always had a fondness for suits, and just looking at the display models in his shop, I couldn't hide my admiration. These are some of our most popular styles. Take a look, pick one, and we'll draw up a design for you. Feel free to make any requests, Mr. Rossi, the owner, said, handing me a thick lookbook filled with various suit designs. I flipped through a few pages and quickly settled on an Italian-style suit in a versatile black. The final details, however, would have to wait for the design sketch. I left my phone number, paid a $50,000 deposit, and remembered to use my left hand to swipe the card. While it was a drop in the bucket compared to $5 million, I wasn't going to pass up an opportunity to spend the task money. After leaving the tailor's, I headed back to where I had parked my car. Ethan, I was just about to unlock my car when I heard someone call my name. I turned around and saw Clara Harrison. What bad luck. What are you doing here? Do you have any idea where you are? This is not a place for you. This was the financial district, home to the Sterling Corporation headquarters and other skyscrapers filled with white-collar workers. The Harrison Corporation, however, was not located on this street. Just looking around, I couldn't very well tell her I had just had coffee with the president of Sterling to return an apartment key. Knowing Clara, she would probably just think I was bragging. Dylan is being discharged tomorrow, and the day after is Grandpa's 80th birthday. You're coming with me today. I'll have someone prepare a tuxedo for you. You have to be at the party. I'm not going. I had no desire to walk into a situation designed to humiliate me. Don't think I didn't know their plan. To appease Dylan, they were going to announce me as their adopted son at the party. That way, I would be a Harrison, but only as a charity case. Even without the spend freely system and my billions, I wouldn't want it. What kind of people were they? Did they think they were so great that everyone had to love them? You are mom and dad's son. If you don't attend your own grandfather's birthday party, what will all of New York's high society think of us? Clara frowned, clearly thinking I was being unreasonable. Grandfather? Go ask around. Who in New York's high society even knows I'm the Harrison son who was switched at birth 21 years ago? You call me a Harrison heir, but since you found me, have you given me a single dollar? Have you once asked how I'm doing? How much is Dylan's monthly allowance? How much have you given me? What birthday presents have you given him over the years? What have you ever given me? All of that should have been mine. I've been generous enough not to demand it back from him. Even though I didn't grow up with you, the blood tie is there. Shouldn't you at least be fair? I won't mention anything else, but I heard Dylan gets $1 million a month. I'm 21, which comes out to $252 million. As my biological parents and sister, don't you think you should pay up? My words left Clara speechless. She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. She didn't dare agree to over $200 million in back allowance. While the Harrison Corporation was well known in New York, coming up with that much cash on short notice would be difficult. Most of their wealth was tied up in the company and investments. Their personal accounts didn't hold that much liquid cash. Not everyone was like me, backed by an insanely wealthy system. All right, I've told you many times, I'm not going back to the Harrison family. From now on, just pretend you don't know me. I'm tired of being berated by you all. After all, you never raised me, so I don't know what right you have to call me ungrateful. I walked around Clara, got into my Porsche, and sped away. The spend freely van followed close behind. Watching me drive off, Clara wondered where I had gotten the money for a Porsche. But before she could dwell on it, her phone rang. She answered, and Dylan's fawning voice filled her ear. For the first time, Clara felt a wave of irritation. I had no idea what happened with Clara after I left. To spend money, I drove to a well-known antiques district in the city. Whether the items appreciated in value was irrelevant. Spending money was my primary goal. The street was filled with vendors calling out to potential customers, but I headed straight for the established antique shops. There were many shops in the district, and I spent some time comparing them before finally choosing one, the Treasure Trove. The name sounded auspicious. The shop was empty except for an elderly man behind the counter, carefully polishing an object. He didn't seem inclined to greet me when I entered. A quick glance told me the shop probably had some real history. Sir, I'm looking for a Zisha clay teapot set. The penthouse at Starlight Towers had a tea room, and today's spending task reminded me that it was still missing a proper tea set, so I had come here. Hearing my request, the old man stopped his polishing and placed the object in the display case. Do you know about tea, young man? I won't lie to you, sir. I don't know much about tea. I just need a set for my tea room at home. The price doesn't matter. I'm mainly here to spend money. If you don't know about tea, why buy a Zisha teapot? A modern ceramic set from any store would do just fine. He was clearly refusing to sell to me. Just tell me what it will take for you to sell it to me. Price is not an issue. You really want to buy it? If you can pass my test, I'll sell you the set. What kind of test? I looked at the old man warily. I wasn't easily fooled. Don't worry, it's not too difficult. You just have to watch me prepare tea, and if you can successfully brew a pot yourself, you pass. The old man led me to a tea room in the back of the shop. On the tea tray sat a Zishakle Pichot tea pet. The moment I saw it, my eyes lit up. If I pass your test, in addition to selling me the tea set, I want a tea pet as well. Once I have the set, I'll buy some tea and start cultivating it. All right, I have a golden toad as well. If you pass, it's yours as a gift. It's a deal. The old man began the tea ceremony, and I watched him intently. I had to admit, the antique dealer had an air of ancient grace about him. Though I had no experience with the art of tea, my memory was sharp. I memorized his every move, replicated them perfectly, and actually managed to brew a successful pot of tea. Mr. Peterson watched my movements and nodded to himself in approval. The young man had some talent. I didn't expect you to actually succeed. This Zisha tea set, I acquired it from a friend. It's a preserved piece from the Song dynasty, practically an heirloom. If his family hadn't fallen on hard times and needed the money, he never would have sold it. I won't overcharge you. 2 million and it's yours. I picked up the tea set and examined it. I couldn't tell much about its authenticity, but it felt exceptionally good in my hands. Do you take cards? I handed him my black card with my left hand. Mr. Peterson's eyebrows rose when he saw the card. He hadn't expected such a wealthy customer today. Certainly. Let me wrap this up for you. Be careful on your way out. Once it leaves this shop, I'm not responsible for any damage. That was the unwritten rule of the antiques district. All sales are final. It all came down to the buyer's and seller's judgment. If you chose well, you could profit. If you made a mistake, you had only yourself to blame. After all, no one was forced to buy anything. It was all voluntary. My bodyguard, 7, stepped forward to carry the package for me. Mr. Peterson was surprised to see I had a bodyguard, but considering the nature of the district, he understood. He was impressed that someone so young knew the importance of personal security. After the transaction was complete, Mr. Peterson returned my card. I took it and continued to wander down the street, spending a few thousand here and a few tens of thousands there. Before I knew it, the remaining 2.95 million was gone. Spending task. Spend $5 million before midnight using your left hand for card transactions. Completed. Task reward. A 4x reward has been triggered. $20 million have been deposited into the host's bank account. Ownership of Emerald Lake Estates has been granted. Relevant deeds are in the system inventory. Please check. I received the task completion notification just as I stopped at a small stall selling old coins. I turned around and realized that my bodyguards, 1 through 7, were all laden with bags. I guess I bought a little too much. Let's call it a day and head home. The moment I decided to go home, a wave of relief washed over the 7 of them. Being assigned to a system host was not an easy job. The stall owner frowned. The massive fortune he had hoped for had just walked away. My extravagant spending in the antiques district had already become the talk of the street, and many vendors had been praying I would visit their stalls. Some might have had ill intentions, but one look at the 7 bodyguards trailing me was enough to make them think twice. In accordance with the interstellar system's supreme mandate, Saturday is a day of rest. The host is not required to complete a spending task. On rest days, the host has a maximum spending allowance of $10 million. Use of this allowance is not mandatory, does not roll over, and will not trigger rebates or rewards. I heard the system's notification as soon as I woke up. The system had a day off? Seeing that the spending was not mandatory, I breathed a sigh of relief. Having to rack my brain every day to figure out how to spend money was fun at first, but it was starting to become a chore. I got out of bed, brushed my teeth, and left my room, planning to make myself some breakfast. Good morning, sir. A sweet voice suddenly sounded in my ear, startling me so much that I took a tactical step back. Looking closely, I saw it was my bodyguard, 7. Morning. What's this? Sir, breakfast is ready. You may dine whenever you are ready. 7 was dressed in a black maid's uniform. She was tall, with a perfectly proportioned figure, and her respectful demeanor and slight bow made her look like a top-tier housekeeper. You can cook? Weren't they bodyguards? I had been planning to hire a few chefs when I had the time so I wouldn't have to cook for myself. The penthouse was too big. Besides chefs, I also needed to hire maids and a butler. Yes, sir. I was once a chef in a culinary dimension. I looked at 7 in a new light. Had Spend Freely sent me 7 bodyguards and thrown in a chef as a bonus? How did I get so lucky? So, are all the dishes you know from that culinary dimension? Can you cook Earth food? Are the ingredients different? You'll know once you taste it, sir. 7 didn't seem to want to elaborate on her home dimension, and I didn't press the issue. But when I entered the dining room and saw the lavish breakfast spread on the table, I knew 7's culinary skills were extraordinary. I can't possibly eat all of this. Tell the others to come and eat too. By the way, Did you all come here without a change of clothes? I'm free today, so let's go to the mall. I'll buy you all some new outfits. Yes, sir. I will inform the others. After I finished my breakfast, I got ready to go out. 1 through 6 emerged from various parts of the penthouse after I was done and came to the dining room to eat. When 7 told them I was going to buy them clothes, their expressions were varied, and an awkward silence fell over the room. They did, however, finish all the breakfast on the table. By the time I was ready to leave, it was already 10 a.m. Arriving at the Grandview Mall, I waved my hand magnanimously. Today is all about you. If you see anything you like, just say the word. It's on me. Thank you, sir. Whoa, keep it down. Keep it down. Let's go pick out some clothes. You can choose any style you like. You don't have to wear suits and sunglasses all the time. At my words, the bodyguard's eyes lit up. Sir, I like the clothes in that store. 7 was the first to speak. I followed her finger and saw she was pointing at a Lolita fashion boutique. To be honest, I wasn't a fan of such a frilly style, but of course I couldn't say no. All right, let's go there first. The rest of you, look around and let me know if you see anything you like. Our large group made its way towards the store. Ethan, that familiar voice, that condescending tone. I really wanted to curse her for being so persistent. So you're Ethan? What is your relationship with them? I didn't even have to turn around. I knew it was my mother. I turned, and my guess was confirmed. Today was the day Dylan was discharged from the hospital. Instead of going home to rest, he was in the mood for shopping? It seemed his injuries weren't that serious after all. Can I help you? What kind of attitude is that? I am your mother after all. Eleanor already felt a sense of rejection towards the son who had suddenly appeared in her life. Seeing my poor attitude only worsened her impression of me. I'm just mirroring the way you speak to me. Is there something you need? If not, I'm leaving. I'm busy. I was still waiting to buy clothes for my bodyguards. Every second they delayed me could prevent me from spending my $10 million daily allowance. Brother, I don't have a habit of adopting brothers. Besides, we share the same birthday. We don't even know who was born first. Until you figure that out, don't just start calling me whatever you want. Ethan, Clara was shocked that I was not only rude to her but also so harsh to an elder and her recently discharged brother. Spit it out. I told you yesterday, tomorrow is Grandpa's birthday party. As a Harrison heir, you are expected to attend. We came out today to pick out a tuxedo for Dylan. Since we ran into you, you might as well join us. I glanced at Clara. Are you really that insistent that I attend this party? Yes. I smiled, but the smile didn't reach my eyes. Fine, I'll do as you say. I'll attend. I'll pick out my own clothes. Just remember to pay for them. But I hope you don't regret this. I wasn't about to spend my own money on an unnecessary expense that wasn't part of my plan. I glanced at the 3 of them and turned to leave. Wait, took me a moment to turn back. Is there something else? Please say everything you need to say at once. You still haven't told us your relationship with them? Eleanor said with a frown, her voice laced with impatience. Brother, don't be angry. Mom is just concerned about you. After all, you're out shopping with so many people. Dylan trailed off, but his unfinished sentence left a lot to the imagination. You'd better watch it. Don't push me. Dylan feigned being terrified, backing away with a look of fear and hiding behind Eleanor. What do you think you're doing? Dylan just got out of the hospital. Are you trying to send him right back? I was speechless. Could a few words really put him in the hospital? Was Dylan made of paper? Mrs. Harrison, I hope you understand something. You did not raise me. Every penny I spend now is money I earned with my own 2 hands. No one in the Harrison family has the right to tell me what to do, including you. If anyone owes anyone anything, it's the Harrison family that owes me. My words left both Clara and Eleanor speechless. They wanted to argue, but they realized I was telling the truth. Only Dylan, in a corner where no one could see, had a venomous look in his eyes, a stark contrast to the timid persona he projected. All right, if there's nothing else, get out of my sight. I'm busy. With that, I turned and led my 7 bodyguards into the store behind me. I was becoming something of a celebrity at the Grandview Mall. The staff at the streetwear store greeted me enthusiastically. Mom, that looks like a women's clothing store. Is my brother buying clothes for that girl? Dylan, having composed himself, began his performance. Humph, he really was raised on the outside. His character is completely untamed. Clara, you need to keep an eye on him from now on. Don't let him tarnish the Harrison family name. Eleanor showed no maternal concern for me. She was only worried that I would bring shame to the family. Clara glanced at Dylan, her feelings complicated, but she ultimately nodded. I understand. All right, let's forget about him. We still need to pick out Dylan's tuxedo. Let's not let irrelevant people ruin our mood. Eleanor took Dylan's hand and led him towards their usual bespoke tailor. Clara glanced at me in the streetwear store, watching as I pulled clothes off the racks as if they were free, holding them up to one of the women with me. She pressed her lips together and followed Eleanor and Dylan out. All right, these few will do. Please get them in her size. I didn't have 7 try them on. We were buying clothes for 7 people, and trying everything on would take too long. Of course, sir. One moment. The sales clerk was ecstatic to see me grab several outfits at once. I was living up to my reputation as the Grandview Mall's big spender. This one sale was worth several days of her commission. Mr. Ethan, your clothes are all packed. Please come this way to pay. I nodded, handed the bags to 7, and followed the clerk to the register. Hello, your total is $128,000. Will that be card or cash? Card. I handed her my black card. After paying, I led my group out of the women's store, ready to move on to the next. Given my track record at the Grandview Mall, word had spread that I was buying clothes for my 7 bodyguards, and every clothing store in the mall was eagerly awaiting my arrival. Meanwhile, though Clara and the others were picking out a tuxedo for Dylan, they were still keeping tabs on my movements in the mall. When Clara heard that I was spending a fortune just to buy clothes for my bodyguards, she felt an unexpected pang of jealousy. As my biological sister, she had never received a gift of clothing from me, yet these bodyguards had. She couldn't understand it. I didn't seem like an irrational person, so why would an employer spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on clothes for their security detail? Clara. Eleanor's voice brought Clara back to reality, making her realize her attention had drifted to me again. Mom, what is it? Have you picked out a tuxedo yet? Clara hadn't wanted to go shopping in the first place, but she had given in to Dylan's persistent pleading. Now, watching Dylan carefree and even a bit petulant as he chose his tuxedo, and comparing it to the image of me buying clothes for others, Clara felt a tightness in her chest. She couldn't quite pinpoint why she felt this way. In her view, I was the one being unreasonable. They were my family, after all, yet my attitude towards them was terrible. Not at all as obedient and sensible as Dylan. We've picked one. There wasn't enough time for a custom piece, so we got a new design that hasn't been released yet. I've arranged it with them. After they sell this one to us, they won't sell another. They're altering it to Dylan's measurements today and will deliver it tomorrow. Make sure someone follows up. I know, Mom. After choosing the tuxedo, Eleanor planned to take Dylan to buy a watch and accessories to match, so she was getting impatient. Is there anything else? What about Ethan's tuxedo? Aren't you going to help him pick one? Clara thought that since it was my first formal event, I probably didn't know much about tuxedos and wanted Eleanor to help. Even if she couldn't dote on me the way she did on Dylan, I was still her biological son. She couldn't just ignore me completely. Doesn't he dislike me? He probably wouldn't like anything I picked out anyway. I'm not going to bother. Aren't there a few over there? Just grab one in his size. It's not like he knows the difference. Eleanor pointed to a few tuxedos hanging in the corner of the shop. From their placement, it was clear they were unpopular models, likely costing no more than $200,000. The one Dylan had chosen, even with their membership discount, was over $1 million. Clara looked at her mother and suddenly felt she understood why I didn't want to return to the family. If she were in my shoes, she might have been even more ruthless, more unforgiving. Clara said nothing more, silently following behind Eleanor and Dylan. I watched their backs disappear around the corner, feeling nothing at all, then turned and led my bodyguards into the store. For the next 2 hours, I completely forgot about the Harrison family drama. 7 picked out 2 Lolita outfits, 3 and 5 both like jackets from the same streetwear brand, and 1 through 6, who were used to wearing suits, claimed they didn't need anything. But after trying on a few casual outfits, they all stood mesmerized in front of the mirror. I didn't bother calling them out, just told the clerk to bag up everything in their sizes. We went from the first floor to the 4th, and I gave all 7 of them a complete head-to-toe makeover, buying in bulk. By the time I was done, my bodyguards were loaded down with bags, and I had spent nearly $10 million. As we were leaving the mall, 7, clutching a pile of shopping bags, whispered, "Sir, you're actually a really nice person." I glanced at her. "The way you say that makes it sound like I was a tyrant before." She smiled, pressing her lips together, and said nothing more. That evening, back at Starlight Towers, my phone rang just as I walked in the door. The caller ID showed it was my landlady, Mrs. Sterling. "Hello, ma'am." "Hello, young man. Did you give the key to my daughter?" "I did. We also signed the termination agreement." "That's good. My Chloe is always so busy with work, and she can be a bit blunt. If she was rude, don't hold it against her." I paused, then smiled. "Not at all. She was great." The other end of the line went quiet for 2 seconds. Then Mrs. Sterling's voice returned, full of amusement. "Oh, listen to you, singing her praises. All right, I won't keep you. You should come over for dinner sometime." After hanging up, I stared at my phone for a moment, feeling a bit strange myself. I had only met Chloe a few times, but every conversation with her felt different from talking to anyone else. She wasn't like the Harrisons, who claimed to have my best interests at heart while every word was an attempt to control me. She always laid everything out on the table, prioritizing rules over emotions, which I found refreshingly comfortable. The next afternoon, as I was trying out my new Zisha teapot set in the tea room, Chloe called. "Mr. Ethan, do you have time to meet? The board has reviewed a new partnership proposal for the West Side plot." "I do. The West End Cafe again. That works." Half an hour later, when I arrived at the cafe, Chloe was already seated by the window. She was wearing a light gray business suit, her hair tied back neatly. 2 documents were laid out on the table in front of her. She looked as sharp and precise as a drawn blade. "Sorry to keep you waiting," I said as I sat down. "I just got here myself." She pushed one of the documents towards me. "This is the new proposal. As you suggested, the land will not be contributed as equity. Sterling will lease the entire plot, paying a fixed quarterly rent, and you will also receive 10% of the resort's operating profits. Both parties will have veto power over the land development and subsequent construction. Nothing will be done without your approval." I read through it carefully, examining every clause. I had to admit, this contract was much more agreeable than the last one. At least this time, they were treating me as an equal partner, not a fool. "This is a much more sincere offer," I said, looking up at her. "I underestimated you last time," she admitted candidly. "Also, my mother called me yesterday." My hand paused. "Your mother, the landlady?" "Yes, she has a very good impression of you." A slight smile touched her lips. "She also asked me to remind you that it would be best not to go to the Harrisons' birthday banquet alone." I closed the contract and smiled. "It seems you and your mother are both keeping a close eye on me." "It's not about keeping an eye on you. We're worried you'll be taken advantage of." She paused, then added, "If you'd like, I can go with you to the banquet." I looked at her for a moment, a sudden warmth spreading through my chest, but I maintained my calm exterior. "Of course, I would be honored to have you there, Miss Sterling." After signing the contract, I didn't leave right away. Instead, I brewed a pot of tea for her. She watched my hands, surprised. "You know how to do this?" "I just learned," I said, pushing a cup towards her. "But I don't think it's poisonous." For the first time, she laughed out loud, and her features softened. On the day of the old Mr. Harrison's 80th birthday, the family went all out, booking the most luxurious hotel ballroom in New York City. At 7 p.m., I changed into the black Italian suit Mr. Rossi had made for me and arrived with my bodyguards. Just as my car stopped, I saw a black Maybach pull up nearby, and Chloe stepped out. She was wearing a midnight blue gown that highlighted the elegant lines of her shoulders and neck. A pair of diamond tassel earrings swayed as she moved. She was stunningly beautiful, a vision of sharp, restrained elegance. I held out my hand to her. She glanced at me, then actually placed her hand in mine. "Nervous?" I asked quietly. "You should be asking if the Harrisons are nervous," she replied calmly. The moment we entered, we captured the attention of the entire room. Clara saw me first, her gaze falling on my intertwined hands with Chloe, and she froze for a second. George's expression was complicated. Eleanor, however, upon seeing me with Chloe, didn't look pleased at all. She frowned. "Why did you bring Miss Sterling with you?" I smiled. "Why? Does the Harrison family have a selective guest list for their parties?" My retort made her face darken. Dylan stood nearby in his $1,000,000 tuxedo, his face pale, unable to hide the panic in his eyes. He probably never imagined that I would not only show up but do so in such a high-profile manner. The banquet began with the old Mr. Harrison giving a speech full of pleasantries. Then, George took the microphone, his eyes scanning the crowd before finally landing on me. "On the occasion of my father's birthday, I would also like to introduce someone to you all. Over 20 years ago, due to an unfortunate accident, this child was lost to us. Thankfully, we have finally found him. After much discussion, the Harrison family has decided to formally adopt him as our son. From this day forward." "Wait a minute." I stood up. My voice wasn't loud, but it was enough to silence the entire room. All eyes turned to me. I calmly adjusted my cufflinks before making my way to the stage. My bodyguard, one, followed behind me and handed me a prepared file. "Mr. Harrison, you've made a mistake in your introduction." I stood at the microphone and addressed the crowd. "I am not the Harrisons' adopted son. I am the biological son of George and Eleanor Harrison. My name is Ethan." The room erupted in murmurs. George's face changed. "Ethan, this is your grandfather's birthday party. Let's discuss this privately." "Privately?" I laughed. The Harrison family was just about to announce their biological son as an adopted one in front of all of New York, and now you want to talk privately? I held up the DNA test results for everyone in the front rows to see. "This is the paternity test between me and George Harrison. 99.9% probability. And this," I pulled out several printed screenshots of text messages from another file, my voice steady and clear. These are the messages Mrs. Harrison sent me. The content instructs me to cooperate with the family tonight and publicly admit that I am just a boy they kindly adopted, so that Dylan can continue to be the rightful Harrison heir. The murmurs in the crowd turned into an uproar. Absurd. The old Mr. Harrison slammed his hand on the table, his cane thudding against the floor. Who gave you permission to cause a scene here? Me cause a scene? I turned to him. Mr. Harrison, the truly absurd one here isn't me. It's your family. Your biological son was lost for over 20 years. When you find him, there's no compensation, no apology. The first thing you do is teach him how to continue making way for the imposter. The Harrison family's sense of decency is truly eye-opening. Clara rushed forward, trying to whisper to me, "Ethan, that's enough." It's not enough. I looked at her, speaking each word deliberately. You've always thought I was unreasonable and ungrateful, haven't you? Well, today, I'll show you what being truly ungrateful looks like. I raised my hand, and one-handed a third set of materials to the hotel's AV technician. A moment later, security footage stills and bank transfer records appeared on the large screen. And one more thing for everyone, I said, turning to the pale-faced Dylan. The young master the Harrisons have raised for 21 years is not as innocent as he appears. 3 months ago, he secretly met with the nurse who delivered him, a woman named Wendy, and transferred $500,000 to her as hush money. The so-called severe after-effects from his car accident have no corresponding medical records at the hospital. In other words, he has known for a long time that he is not a biological Harrison. He just couldn't bear to give up the title, so he faked illnesses, played the victim, and sowed discord, all without missing a beat. You're lying, Dylan finally broke, his voice shrill. I didn't. Whether you did or not, you know best. I placed a final audio recorder on the table and pressed play. Wendy's trembling voice filled the room. 21 years ago, she had taken money from a Harrison family rival and switched the 2 babies in the chaos. Recently, Dylan had found her, forced her to remain silent, and promised to send her abroad once everything was settled. The entire hall fell silent. George staggered back a step, looking as if he had aged several years in an instant. Eleanor's face was ashen as she reached for Dylan. Dylan, this isn't true, is it? Say something. Dylan's lips trembled, but he couldn't utter a single word. I turned off the recorder and scanned the room. I didn't come here today for a family reunion, nor to fight for the Harrison fortune. I came to tell everyone the truth. From this day forward, I have no relationship with the Harrison family. As for your attempt to humiliate me with the status of an adopted son, and for the years of concealment and damage to my reputation, my lawyers will be in touch. With that, I put down the microphone and walked off the stage. As I passed Clara, she suddenly called out to me, "Ethan." I paused but didn't turn around. Her voice was soft, filled with a vulnerability I had never heard from her before. I'm sorry. I was silent for 2 seconds before replying coolly. You should have said that 21 years ago. After that night, the Harrison family's reputation was in tatters. Once the recording was out, Wendy was quickly taken in by the police, and through her, the Harrisons' old rival was also implicated. More damningly, it was revealed that Dylan, in his desperation to protect his status, had embezzled company funds, bribed people for their silence, and even leaked project data to an outside party. With everything coming to light, he could no longer feign illness and was placed under investigation. Eleanor couldn't handle the blow and ran around trying to pull strings to save him, only making things worse. George had several huge fights with her, and they eventually separated. The old Mr. Harrison suffered a stroke after the humiliation at his birthday party and was hospitalized. The family's prestige plummeted. For the first time, Clara truly acted like an heiress. She cleaned up the mess, publicly admitted the family's mistakes, and even came to see me once in person. She came alone that day, without her usual air of superiority, and without trying to guilt me with "You're a Harrison." She simply placed a bank card in front of me and said it was a personal compensation, the most she could offer. I didn't take it. I don't need the money, I told her. From now on, let's go our separate ways. It's better for both of us. She was silent for a long time before finally saying, I understand, and turning to leave. We never saw each other privately again. My life, on the other hand, only got better. After the West Side Plot project officially began, I started seeing Chloe more and more frequently. She was in charge of the overall development and leasing, while I handled the land, funding, and supporting infrastructure. The tenant situation at the Apex Tower was sorted out smoothly. Mr. Evans could now collect rent with his head held high. I renewed the long-term lease with Mr. Russo for the Auto Plaza and invested more money in upgrades. Emerald Lake Estates provided a steady return, becoming my most hassle-free cash flow project. When things got busy, Chloe and I would often spend the entire day together. We'd eat lunch out of takeout containers in the conference room, visit the construction site at night to check on progress, and when we were tired, we'd sit on the terrace of the temporary model home and drink tea. That song Dynasty Zisha teapot set became my business meeting set. The first time she drank the tea I brewed with it, she commented seriously, "Much better than the first time." I laughed. A compliment from Ms. Sterling is becoming quite valuable. She looked up at me, the city lights reflected in her eyes. "In that case, Mr. Ethan, would you consider a long-term partnership?" My heart skipped a beat. I suddenly understood what she was really asking. The day we made it official, there were no flowers or candlelit dinners. It was the night the West Side project topped out. We stood on the rooftop terrace of the still unopened hot spring resort, looking out at the night sky. I had the red jadeite phoenix from the auction made into a brooch and pinned it to her dress myself. "Chloe," I said her name, "should we take our partnership to the next level?" She glanced at the brooch, then back at me. For once, she didn't engage in witty banter, just gave a soft hum. When Mrs. Sterling found out we were together, she was so happy she came back from her trip early, showing up at Starlight Towers with bags of groceries, insisting on cooking for us. During dinner, she looked at me, beaming. "I told you. I knew that young man renting my apartment was going to be successful. I never would have imagined that I, the boy who once slept under bridges and fought dogs for food, would one day be sitting in such a bright, warm dining room, being treated so naturally as family." A year later, the West Side Hot Spring Resort officially opened, becoming the hottest topic in New York City overnight. 6 months after that, on that same lawn, I proposed to Chloe. She said yes without hesitation, even teasing me for being too slow in presenting the ring. The wedding was set for early summer. The sun was shining that day. The lawn was covered in white roses, and steam from the hot springs drifted in the distance. The core teams from the Apex Tower, the Auto Plaza, Emerald Lake Estates, and the resort were all there. Leo was as excited as if it were his own wedding. My old supervisor even wore a dress for the occasion. Mr. Evans and Mr. Russo were chatting animatedly. 1 through 7 stood on either side, looking sharp in the custom suits I had bought for them. Someone from the Harrison family came, but not to cause trouble. Clara had a generous gift delivered, but she only stood at the entrance for a moment before leaving. George later sent a congratulatory text message, which I read and then deleted without replying. As for Dylan, he was sentenced and sent to prison. Eleanor had exhausted herself trying to save him, and was now reportedly living a quiet life in the old Harrison mansion. All of that felt very distant to me now, like it had happened in another lifetime. When the music started, I looked up. Mrs. Sterling was walking Chloe down the aisle towards me. She was in her wedding dress, the red jadeite phoenix brooch pinned to her chest, looking just as breathtaking as she had the first time I saw her at the auction. I suddenly felt that all the hardship, anger, and resentment I had carried on my journey had finally settled in this one moment. When the officiant asked if I would take her, I didn't hesitate. "I do." Chloe looked at me, the corners of her eyes crinkling as she smiled, and also said, "I do." The applause from the guests was deafening. As I held her hand and leaned in to kiss her, only one thought remained in my mind. From this day forward, I finally have a home.